I want to give a shout out to Black Ice TV. Make sure you watch it, support it. The news you can use, the information you can use. Youth, Pan-Africanism, economics, family, community. Make sure you support Black Ice TV because Dr. Umar Johnson does.
Sacred is sacred. On the die, mother and father is the basics. Rise like it's supposed to slip out the matrix. Still dumbstruck, thinking this is entertainment. Escape to reality. Most lives are wasted.
I keep it raw like Sarasetti. Hotep, but if you're an enemy, you catch a broke net. Bang on the system like bullets from barrels released. Zulu Kemetic like African Bombata. The beast got a hold of the streets, rectify it like Malcolm. Watch your friends and your enemies, never doubt them. Never should you participate in their traditions, cause when you do, you put your own life into submission. Who's the victim? Tell me who the fuck will listen and step up and take charge. Most are caught slipping. If you don't stand for nothing, fam, then you fall for anything.
This is Dr. Charles S. Finch III on Black Ice TV 7. Welcome.
Alright, this is Black Ice TV down at the Unk Wellbeing Center here with Terry Riggs, HKTH, Knowledge and Travels, sitting here with Dr. Finch.
Now, today, we're with someone great, someone that we need to learn from, some information that we need to understand, a great icon, a titan, as we see on the Titans TV, and a superior person. I'm going to say Dr. Finch again. Hi, Dr. Finch.
Good afternoon and hello.
Yeah. Normally what we do is when we do our little interviews, we put it into 4 categories. We go to history, health, spiritual and mind, and economics. So basically we're just going to start with the your history of how you began and what gave you the interest.
Well, like I said, I came of age in the 1960s. In America as elsewhere in the world, that was a era of tremendous political, social upheaval, as well as being an era of, shall we say, cultural, historical, and racial even rediscovery. What came out of that is that I became, shall we say, obsessed with obsessed with the desire to rediscover and reclaim the history of African peoples, because up to that point, such history as we had, we thought was like started with the slave trade 500-600 years ago. In any case, even when there was like African history books that you saw or courses, there was no sense of Africa going back to the dawn of civilization. So my road to Damascus, so to speak, that moment when the light came on and altered the course of my life, was when I picked up the book by J.A. Rogers called World's Great Men of Color. That really was a launch. And I started collecting books. I started looking at his sources, collecting the books, reading them, and then reading the sources of the sources, and continuing like that for 10 years. For the most part, I thought I was conducting what you might call a lonely labor for about 10 years, until I picked up Ivan Van Serma's Journal of African Civilizations. That was a revelation. Oh, well, I had known about Van Serma before, actually. I had purchased and read They Came Before Columbus, his kind of signature, his opus, you might say.
Yeah,
that sort of made his name.
Yeah, because I learned that from Ronko Rashidi,
Yeah.
and he told me a lot about the guy.
Yes.
I wish I was in that era.
Yes. And I got he started publishing the Journal of African Civilizations, and I was in a black-oriented bookstore in San Francisco. And I saw this gold-covered periodical, and I picked it up, and I saw that it was edited by Ivan Van Serma, so I picked it up and read through it, and I was just astounded by what was in the journal, because nobody was writing like that in that way, or at least when I say writing like that, compiling articles of that kind. And so I wrote him a letter, and I think I must have said something about the fact that I was an MD, doctor, and told him how much I was positively impacted by what I was reading. And it was about a 2-page letter, single-spaced 2-page letter. and sent him a. I even have that letter still. I sent him a copy of it. I sent him a check for a subscription. Well, I think that was that. I didn't. And then a week later, the phone rang. I was living in Raleigh, North Carolina at the time. I picked it up. I said, "Hello." It says, "This is Ivan von Sertima." I looked at it. I said, I thought it was at first. I wasn't believing what I was hearing. I mean, this came talking about a bolt out of the blue. And he talked about how much he liked the letter I wrote and how much he was impressed by what I was telling him. In the end, what he said, would you be willing to write an article for the Journal of African Civilizations on the history of blacks in medicine? Well, my God, I mean, I don't know, to say that I was speechless or dumbfounded is kind of, doesn't even capture the feeling at the time. The answer was obviously a yes, and I wrote an article, and it was published in the Journal of African Civilizations in 1982. And then shortly thereafter that, I was invited to Compton, California, where I gave my first public lecture on that subject, the African background of medical science. That started also a long-term relationship with Ivan Van Sertima of my own. He became a personal friend, and I ended up publishing 8 articles in the Journal of African Civilizations. Continued to read and study, continued to write articles for the Journal of African Civilizations, and by this time, you might say my lecturing career began to blossom quite a bit. Then in 1990, Amon Saba Sakana, who is the founder and director of Karnak House here in London, got permission from myself and Van Sertima to compile all those articles into a single book. I think it was 1990, 1991, something like that. And we both gave him permission to do that, and that was the first book that was published with my name on it, The African Background of Medical Science, previously published articles, all that which became chapters in that book. And that's still in print, by the way. And then I published a book that I sort of wrote from scratch called Echoes of the Old Darkland, Themes from the African Eden. This book.
Okay.
1991.
Make sure you go out there and buy this and purchase this book, because we need people to purchase the information that we need.
This book looks at the cultural and historical evolution of the African world, culminating in the manner in which what we think of as Judeo-Christianity evolved out of the African framework.
Okay.
And
the essence.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's chapters 5 and 6 of this book. Okay. Mm-hmm. Continued to. Also this time I was sort of in a parallel fashion getting interested in traditional African spirituality. You might even say becoming immersed in it, as well as continuing my historical studies. So my studies, lectures continued until I was ready to write my next book to be published.
Which is the famous book.
The Star of Deep Beginnings,
Yep.
Genesis of African Science and Technology, 1998. Excuse me. I'm trying to recover from a
just for a second, if someone wanted to purchase these books or any other books, where could they get that from?
Right now, if you're talking about the UK, I would ask them to call Amanette.
Amanette,
from
yeah.
the Blue Water family. She's the one
Okay.
that's. And I'm selling the books right now while I'm here.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much. What am I trying to say? If we sell out all the books while I'm here, I will have sell them out.
That would be fantastic.
And then I don't know whether will we send another box. I brought the boxes over here with me on the plane. Whether we'd sell more, I guess it would depend on the demand after that. Okay. But we got a box here, and we're selling them sort of right now, pell-mell, you might say. So I mean, the best time to get them is while I'm here, quite honestly.
Yeah. Okay.
Because and I brought about almost, I think, nearly 20 of each.
Okay.
That's okay.
Because
box is kind of heavy.
It'll probably sell out on the amount of events that we've got.
Yeah.
Especially we've got an event coming on this evening, down there in it's I'm not even too sure, but it's
Nile Valley African Origin Civilization at Yale Center at Chippenham Mews, 1 Chippenham Mews.
okay.
Repeat that one more time. Okay, that's tonight. Starts at 4 p.m. Oh goodness, yeah, the cradle of the title is the Cradle of the Nile Valley: The African Origin of Egyptian Civilization. The venue is the Yad Sentawa Center at 1 Chippenham Mews.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so as we were going on the explanation of this book, the star of the deep beginnings, as I've got an organization called New Beginnings. It's an economical system. But yeah, so on this book, just a little brief synopsis on the book.
Oh, yeah, well, we basically go and systematically explore the Northeast African origins of architecture, engineering, astronomy, mathematics, map making, and so cartography, and that includes navigation.
Okay.
All right. And so the foundations of all the sciences and high technologies that we take for granted today as being created in and out of the European context, we can demonstrate their sources and origins in Northeast Africa. That's basically what I would say. People have to understand, it's better almost to say Northeast Africa, because when we talk about Egypt, we also should talk about Kush, which is Ethiopia, which is the northern third of the Sudan, because you see what do I want to say? Diodorus, the Greek historian in the 2nd century BC, actually wrote. He says the people of Kush, the Kushites, say that Egypt was a colony of theirs, and everything proclaims it.
Yeah.
Okay. Not only Kush, not only Egypt, but so was Sumer, by the way, a colony of Kush. So you really ought to think about in terms of Kemet and Kush, or Egypt and Ethiopia. And in any case, the point is that's all Northeast Africa. What we did back then, Ethiopia, the name Ethiopia was given to that northern third of what is now the Sudan, or Kush. Anyway, so when you think about, and we spent a lot of time, we examined the Great Pyramid and its construction and its astronomical alignments, astronomy, the manner in which astronomy was created and the calendars were created. We look at the systematic creation of mathematics, including algebra, geometry, trigonometry, and calculus, all in Africa. That's just a synopsis.
Because like when we was on the talk of the Titans, and you mentioned the Ethiopian king. So
Cosmic Ethiopian king.
I just wanted a quick talk about that. How you got to that king. That was amazing.
It's not a quick talk. But we'll do it. We'll do what we can. Reads from vertical, gyrates around the vertical North Pole. Takes him 26,000 years to complete. The ancients in Northeast Africa has discovered this phenomenon and created a calendar, a 26,000-year calendar around this phenomenon. Okay, they did it by looking at the heliacal rising of the constellation at the equinoxes, and also what particular constellation was coming to the pole stars. And there are 7 constellations that come to the pole stars. All right, but they change every 3,700 years. And every 3,000, that's an age, polar age of 3,700 years, okay?
Okay.
Because of this gyration that I'm talking about, okay, of the pole stars. Right now, the pole is in what they call Ursa Minor, the little bear. But in ancient times, Ursa Minor was called Wepwat, the opener of the way, who was the jackal, the divine jackal. So that got changed by the Greeks to Ursa Minor, all right? Well, let's see, the pole star moved into the sign of the jackal, or Ursa Minor, about 1653 BC, something like that. Well, it's getting ready to shift.
Yeah.
And that shift is going to happen in 2050 AD. How was that, 34 years from now?
Yeah, I think so.
There's another constellation that's going to come into the place at the pole, at the magnetic pole, inaugurating an age, a polar age, cosmic age of 3,700 years. And that constellation coming there is Cepheus.
Okay.
Cepheus is the ancient and cosmic Ethiopian king.
Okay.
Now you want to read about Cepheus. Read Robert Graves' Greek Myths.
Greek myths.
Yes.
Okay.
But if you or just read the mythology itself, Cepheus is famous as being the husband of Cassiopeia and the father of Andromeda.
Andromeda.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a statue in the British Museum of Andromeda being an Ethiopian black princess.
Yes, yeah, and so her father. That's right. Her father was Cepheus,
Okay.
and Perseus, remember, saved Andromeda from the water monster. Married her. Excuse me. So the point is that you can see Cepheus in the northern heaven right now.
Okay.
At night. But the point is, his wife Cassiopeia is actually a more brilliant constellation, but Cepheus is the one coming to the North Pole, and so that age is going to start. I don't think I'm going to be around then, by the way. That's 20.
I hope you are.
2050.
I hope you are. We'll have to look after you then.
and then it continues for the next 37 centuries.
Okay.
I'm just, you can make of that what you will. You can interpretation.
But you being mind and spirit.
Yeah, but the people, people says, well, that mean what does that mean for people of African descent? I says only people of African descent will determine their destiny as a result. But this cosmic Ethiopian king, because he was renowned for his fairness, sense of justice, balance, and order. He was not a warrior king. He was a sage king. You know what I'm saying? He was a wise king.
Okay.
Kind of like Solomon, really.
Yeah.
In fact, preceded Solomon. And so that's going to be a new age of justice, harmony, and balance, among other things.
Okay, now we're getting to this part of going out of the history side of stuff. We're going to go into what you're known for and what you've got your degree, your masters, what it is on the forms of health.
I'm a physician by training, and my specialty is family medicine. And I worked for the Morehouse School of Medicine for 24 years. 18 of those years was as a director of international health. And one of the main things I did, not the only, but one of the main things is I started my work with traditional healers in Senegal, and I actually worked with a colleague of mine to do a knowledge, attitudes, and practice survey among a group of traditional healers among the people we call the Serer people of Senegal. Okay. But I also did some other things, mostly in Africa. That's what got me traveling to Africa so much.
So would you say that's your passion?
What is now?
The healing and...
That and this.
Yeah.
Yes, I would say so, because you see, you can't get into African healing seriously until you get into the spirituality. You can't separate the two.
Yeah.
If you're going to be addressing yourself to the healing paradigm of Africa, you have to get into the spiritual paradigm. Yeah. The two things are fused together in such a way you can't separate one out of the other. So, I would say it's a passion, almost an obsession, as is this kind of historical work.
Historical work. Yeah. And then,
let me just say this. But, what do I do to actually work and make a living? I'm as I say, a family physician, so I work as a primary care physician in the clinic and, see patients and everything. So I still do that.
Okay. And how do you find some of them patients?
Well, you see, I'm at the place now in my life where I really would like to retire. Because if I retired, then I could concentrate on the things that, as you say, move my passion. And work life, quite honestly, is kind of almost like a distraction, quite honestly. But you got to make a living, just like everybody else.
Okay. And then, the three things that, as I said to you, spiritual and mind. How do you see spiritual, mental, and physical planes?
You can't. If you spend time in Africa, you don't separate them out.
You don't say they all become one.
Yeah, they become like I said, interrelated, interfused, and it's only our mentality that pulls them apart. And particularly healing in Africa. Healing in Africa is always a spiritual phenomenon as much as a clinical or an empirical intervention. Okay. And in fact, all disease from in Africa, from the common cold to cancer, has a spiritual component.
Okay.
So you can't separate them out. So what you decide, those three dimensions, we kind of compartmentalize them, but in truth, that's an artifact. That's artificial.
Artificial. Okay, now we're just going to go into the forms of economics of explaining the events of what's going to happen. you're here to the 23rd. That's Tuesday.
Yes.
And we're trying to get as many people to come to the event and to check up on the Blue Water Family
Blue Water
website,
Family, Blue Water Family.
which is Blue Water Family WordPress.com, and you can get all the information there, and you're going to give them special surprises, I suppose.
I guess I am. Yeah. So we got 5. I'm gonna put on my glass for a minute. There's 5. We're doing the workshops, and then there's these didactic presentations. The workshops are in the morning. The didactic presentations are in the evening. Tonight is the Cradle of Nile Valley, African Origin of Egyptian Civilization. Friday is the Imhotep Factor, the African Presence in the History of Medicine. Sunday is the Ages and Convergence, the Cosmic Mother of the Waters meets the Celestial Ethiopian King. So we go into that in depth and detail. Then Tuesday is Cosmic Africa, Myth and Matter in the Dogon World System. And then finally, Africa and the Birth of Science and Technology. All right? And then we got the workshops in the mornings.
So just go to the website and check it all out. Dr. Charles Finn, thank you for this wonderful interview. If you can just say one little thing, Black Eyes TV 7, and I will be well appreciated.
Well, I am very happy to be here in the African community of the United Kingdom once again, and I just hope that this is what you might call a new dawn.
Okay.
And a new dawn for, let's just leave it at that, a new dawn.
All right. Black Eyes TV 7, this is Terry Riggs, and the big man behind the camera, Mr. Rich. This is out and over and out.